Yes, we got to talk about some internet outrage. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're going to be talking about Starfield, Xbox exclusivity, the fact that this game could be gigantic and not come into PlayStation 5, and why Twitter seems to be just so incredibly upset. Now, part of the reason I'm filming this inside of my sound booth is because there's a gigantic storm outside, so it's difficult to actually just film anything with all the lightning and thunder, but additionally, people have been screaming their heads off about this project. Over the course of the last year or so, there's been a bunch of very deep dive leaks about Starfield as a project. Now, in case you've never heard them, basically what's happening is that Bethesda, the people who have obviously invented things like Elder Scrolls and Fallout, they're making a gigantic space adventure. Now, I can't show you some of these leaks, but they have actually had quite a bit come out, from screenshots to internal tester data. I mean, this game seems like it's going to be absolutely enormous, but there's been a bunch of very specific questions about Starfield ever since the Xbox acquisition. Just a couple months ago, obviously, we saw that Microsoft swoop in and they bought Bethesda completely. Now, this was a very, very big deal. In fact, it was $7.5 billion of money exchanged. But a lot of us were wondering, what happens to Starfield as a project? Now, part of this comes from the fact that from all the leaks that I saw, it seemed like Starfield is very, very close to complete. I mean, I thought that it was probably going to come to PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, and PC. I mean, after all, that's just more easy money for Microsoft. But now these newest leaks that have just come out over the course of this weekend seem to confirm just two separate things. It's only going to be on Xbox and PC, and they've basically confirmed it's never coming to PlayStation 5. Now, this news has completely stirred up the internet, and people are already just claiming that they're going to boycott Bethesda. This is not a joke. I've actually seen this exact statement all over the place. People saying, I'm never going to buy another Bethesda game ever again. I'm not going to support anything they do. I mean, I've even seen people say, I can't believe I've bought Bethesda games in the past, knowing that they would screw me over now. Now, this is a pretty big deal. Part of it is because Bethesda is actually a gigantic group of games. Not only is it Elder Scrolls and Skyrim and all that stuff, it's also stuff like Doom. This game, as much as everybody loves it, it is a Bethesda property. So that means Doom is now just an Xbox game, it seems like, going forward. Or things like Prey, Dishonored. Like this, to me, I think we're starting to see the grander implications of the fact that Microsoft is definitely paying to win. Now, one of the comments that definitely kind of caught my eye is people over on Reddit acting like this is the, now let me put gigantic air quotes here, the first win for Xbox. Now, I'm more of a PlayStation guy. I definitely enjoy my PS5 a lot. I play my PS5 pretty much every single day, and part of that is definitely because of the games themselves. Sony has been cranking out as many exclusives as they can, things like Days Gone, God of War, Uncharted, obviously these gigantic projects. Now, we're even a couple weeks away now from the absolutely glorious looking Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and pretty much everybody online, it seems the gigantic sentiment is that if Xbox wants to try and just make sure they're dominating the market, if Xbox wants to try and do their best to keep up, they need more exclusives. Now, let me just say something here. I don't think that Microsoft just doesn't have the same strategy that PlayStation does. PS5, I mean, straight up, they need that cash. PlayStation is definitely a much more liquid brand. They need to make sure that their games sell at full price. The console sells at full price. The controllers sell at full price. They need this because that's pretty much their only freaking revenue right now. Like, PlayStation is not making as many movies as Sony once was. They're not selling many of the Sony's phones and stuff. The most profitable part of Sony right now is the PlayStation brand. Whereas Microsoft, they have tons of cash coming in from every single direction, selling Windows, selling all their other freaking stuff, Microsoft Word. So even though this is just more of like a mumbo-jumbo technical talk, this is important to Xbox division because it makes it where Microsoft isn't as hungry for that upfront cost, which is why they've been pushing Game Pass so freaking much. They can step in, spend enormous piles of cash to pick up these projects, and then practically give them away to anybody who owns an Xbox or Games Pass on PC. Now, here's the thought about this. I'm glad, but I'm very understanding of the people that are currently outraged about this. I'm kind of laughing about some of the most hyperbolic comments, people acting like Microsoft is killing Bethesda, and just psychopathic comments like that are definitely not useful. But they do bring up an interesting point, which is that I think that we're kind of still entering this time period where you are going to have to try and probably eventually grab every single console. And this is an expensive investment. I'm not going to act like that's cheap. I think that's part of the reason that people are just so incredibly outraged is because of this high cost to entry. They're expressing it in the dumbest way possible, in my opinion, but I do think that a lot of people are basically saying, all right, I managed to save up and skip 100 lunch breaks. That way I could buy my PlayStation 5. I have it. I'm excited for the future of games. And then they hear that this gigantic upcoming project with some completely delicious leaked screenshots isn't coming to PlayStation 5. I understand that disappointment. This is starting to feel more and more like the war between stuff like Hulu and Netflix or Amazon Prime Video and stuff. Like, the problem with the streaming wars is that you eventually have to get everything. Like, if you want to see the latest movies, the craziest shows, the coolest animes and stuff, you're eventually going to subscribe to every service at some point. And the problem with this when it comes to game consoles is the incredibly high cost to entry. Like, the fact that you're going to probably have to eventually buy a $500 Xbox Series X to actually keep up with the other gamers, to me is a bit of a gigantic drawback. Now let me just throw out some absolute speculation here, some just pure guesses on my part due to some of the stuff I've seen. It appears, as just looking at some of these leaks, that Starfield is going to be coming out March 2021. So I think that it's probably still going to be coming to the original Xbox, the VCR Xbox One, and also stuff like the Xbox One X along with the Series X. I think that Microsoft is still in this time period where they want to try and support their older generations of technology for as long as possible, and part of this just comes down to the fact that they're still pushing Games Pass. They want to make sure that everybody is just still willing to pay this subscription fee. And additionally, I'm definitely in this spot where I want to see what Microsoft is able to do with this. The fact that they're already starting to push these exclusives, to me, is interesting. And more than anything, personally, I'm curious what this creates. PlayStation is kind of in this spot where they're working on their projects. PlayStation just released an interview a couple days ago that I didn't make a video about, but they said that they're working on 25 different games right now. So this is probably stuff that's not coming out for years and years and years. Just to be completely clear, this is not like 2022 projects, but it's interesting that Starfield is the first notch in the belt, probably showing that Microsoft is going to do their best to keep up this generation. I'm excited for the competition of this. I'm very, very hyped for the idea that these juggernauts are going full steam ahead to try and compete for the gamer dollars, but I do worry about just the idea that I already own all the systems. I'm definitely fine and stuff, but I'm always curious how much this is going to hurt sales, how much these games are really going to take off. If these projects really start costing $70, $80, crazy $200 collector's editions and stuff, I'm always curious how this is going to turn out. And there's still kind of the elephant in the room that Bethesda did screw up not too long ago. Fallout 76 is definitely a better experience now, but let's not forget the fact that there were definitely times where Bethesda has made their own gigantic foibles. But what do you think about this? Have you actually seen these leaks? I wish I could show you the screenshots because honestly, Starfield is visually gorgeous. Who knows if this game is actually going to be fun? Who knows if this game is going to be a shooter or a slasher or some sort of crazy space RPG that blows our minds? But I'm definitely curious about the project. This is one of those games that I'm definitely the most excited to see. And the rumor is it's about to show up at E3. It's wild to just imagine that E3 is now just a couple weeks away, but things are definitely starting to heat up. It's time for us all to try and prepare for those E3 leaks, those E3 rumors, and then the gigantic reveals themselves. But please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. I'm sure I look a little bit funky and spooky, but there's been some crazy storms all through Texas yesterday. In fact, there was even a tornado near one of my friends' house. So, you know what? This is the only way I could film a video, so I hope I don't look too spooky. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.